How is it? This inheritor of yours, quite surprising, isn't it? After Fire Spirit Ancestor relayed everything he had learned about Xiao Yan to Tuasha Ancient Emperor, he once again placed his hand holding the letter behind his back. In fact, not only Tuasha Ancient Emperor, but even when he discovered these things, he was deeply shocked. A person who had broken through the dimensional shackles and reached the heavenly supreme level within just over 10 years. Such a speed of power advancement, talent, and potential was extraordinary. Not only among the Fire Spirit Clan, but even the Primordial Divine Clan and Myriad Spirit Divine Clan would be stunned by such a level. What this young man named Xiao Yan would achieve in the future, and what he might become, was completely unpredictable. He is quite a terrifying figure, Tuasha Ancient Emperor said after recovering from his shock. He has a lot of confidence sending a letter to the Fire Spirit Clan this time, and I suspect he's not just trying to thank you, Fire Spirit Ancestor replied. What do you mean? Tuasha Ancient Emperor asked. It's simple enough. His breakthrough from the continent of Doqi was actually made possible because of your inheritance. And from how he reached the heavenly supreme level in just 10 years, it's clear that Xiao Yan is a young man with great ambition and high determination, Fire Spirit Ancestor said with a faint smile. He probably wants to bring you back. After all, that place is your homeland. Upon hearing this, Tuasha Ancient Emperor fell silent, seemingly lost in thought. Sigh. Fire Spirit Ancestor sighed. It's not that simple, but we've had thousands of years of interaction, and I suppose we can be considered half-old friends. So I can assure you, if you truly wish to leave with Xiao Yan, neither I nor the Fire Spirit Clan will stop you. Even though you are the clan-guarding divine flame of our clan, the Fire Spirit Clan isn't in such a decline that it can't function without one flame. Tuasha Ancient Emperor understood that Fire Spirit Ancestor was helpless in this situation. Although Fire Spirit Ancestor had subdued him thousands of years ago and made him the clan-guarding divine flame of the Fire Spirit Clan, both of them had now broken through to the upper heavenly supreme level. With their positions equal, even without Xiao Yan, no one could stop Tuasha Ancient Emperor if he wanted to leave the Fire Spirit Clan. Fire Spirit Ancestor also knew that Tuasha Ancient Emperor had stayed with the Fire Spirit Clan not because there was nowhere else to go, but because the Fire Spirit pasture was the most comfortable and free place for him in the Great Thousand Worlds. You old man, Xiao Yan hasn't even stated his intentions yet, and you're already thinking about sending me away, Tuasha Ancient Emperor said helplessly, shaking his head. Xiao Yan is indeed surprising, but wanting to make me go back with just this, he still has a long way to go. With that, Tuasha Ancient Emperor slowly stood up. Old man, we've had dealings for thousands of years. This time, I have an idea. Do you want to hear it? Oh? Sounds interesting. Let me hear it, Fire Spirit Ancestor replied. A few days later, on the Flame Emperor continent in the Do domain. It had been about 10 days since the last meeting of the elders. 10 days ago, a letter personally written by Xiao Yan of the Flame Emperor was sent to the distant Fire Spirit Clan in the Great Thousand Worlds. During this time, the people in the Do domain had simply been waiting for a response from the Fire Spirit Clan. Today, after passing through the hands of the Primordial Ancient Dragon Clan from the Relic Continent, a letter from the Fire Spirit Clan finally arrived in the Flame Emperor continent, much to everyone's anticipation. However, upon seeing the contents, Xiao Yan did not convene another meeting with the elders. Instead, he only informed Long Yuan, Primordial Sacred Flame, Kailin, and Xun'er. At the same time, Xiao Yan had the necessary arrangements made for a teleportation spiritual array to the Fire Spirit Clan's domain. At this moment, on a mountain peak in the Flame Emperor continent, several figures were gathered. These were Xiao Yan and Long Yuan, among others. They were all gazing at the scene before them, a newly created vast square. In the center of the square, dozens of powerful figures were busy arranging a large teleportation array. Swish! From above the square, the sound of rushing water was heard. The source of the sound was a massive, ring-shaped river, and surprisingly, this river was composed of nearly 200 million supreme spiritual liquid, which was the required energy to activate this teleportation array, as it was a teleportation from a lower dimension to the Fire Spirit Clan's domain in the Great Thousand Worlds. The Fire Spirit Clan's response is a bit unexpected. Looks like they've also investigated some of our matters. It must be because of Fire Tianyang, Xun'er said. She had heard Xiao Yan talk about the events at the 10,000 Pills gathering, and Fire Tianyang, who had also made it to the final elimination round, was a member of the Fire Spirit clan. Xiao Yan had won the championship at the gathering, and such a matter would surely have been communicated to the higher-ups of the Fire Spirit clan through Fire Tianyang. Although the response from the Fire Spirit clan was rather brief, their clear focus on Xiao Yan and the Do domain was evident. The only regret is that we still haven't learned the will of the Tuasha ancient emperor himself. Xiao Yan added, this trip to the Fire Spirit clan doesn't require many people. Just myself and Senior Sacred Flame will be enough. Xiao Yan had originally planned to go alone, but since he needed the power of the primordial sacred flame, he had to bring Senior Sacred Flame along. Furthermore, the primordial sacred flame had once been defeated by Tuasha ancient emperor, and as an old acquaintance, it wished to see him again. If the Tuasha ancient emperor doesn't want to return with you, then don't force it. Long Yuan said again. I understand. Xiao Yan nodded. If Tuasha ancient emperor wanted to remain with the Fire Spirit clan, Xiao Yan couldn't bring him back either. Anyway, be cautious. The Fire Spirit clan has many powerful experts, and I've heard that they are as battle-hungry as the Thunder God clan. You never know. Someone might challenge you as soon as you arrive. Kailin, standing beside Xiao Yan, added, also, Xiao Zhao's condition is improving, so don't let your daughter wake up to find you covered in wounds. That's not a problem. Xiao Yan smiled. While the Fire Spirit clan had many strong experts, the only ones he truly feared were the Fire Spirit ancestor and the clan leader. He didn't think anyone else there would pose much of a threat to him now. Whoosh! As Xiao Yan and Long Yuan spoke, a sudden rush of air came from the front, and soon a person in charge of the teleportation spiritual formation appeared before them, cupping his hands toward Xiao Yan. Domain Master, the teleportation spiritual formation to the Fire Spirit domain has been set up. As long as we activate it with Supreme Spiritual Liquid, it will open a direct path to the Fire Spirit domain. Thank you. We'll handle the rest ourselves. Xiao Yan said with a wave of his hand. The dozens of figures on the plaza promptly stepped aside. Activate the teleportation formation. After the powerful figures stepped back, Xiao Yan waved his sleeve again, and the Supreme Spiritual Liquid, suspended above the teleportation formation, surged downward like a flood, filling the formation. With the infusion of 200 million Supreme Spiritual Liquid, the massive teleportation formation was immediately activated. Boom! As the giant formation powered up, the resulting energy waves distorted the surrounding space for hundreds of thousands of miles. A brilliant light burst forth from the massive plaza. Senior Long Yuan, please take care of the Do domain, Xiao Yan said, cupping his hands at Long Yuan before swiftly moving with Senior Sacred Flame toward the teleportation formation. On the mountain behind them, Long Yuan, Kailin, and Xun'er stood watching. They were not worried, for Xiao Yan was strong enough, and the Fire Spirit clan's response had been quite cordial. This time, it would be a grand negotiation. The letter from the Fire Spirit clan contained only 2 striking characters. Welcome. This was an invitation from the Fire Spirit clan to the Do domain, and also an invitation to Xiao Yan. Whoosh! As Xiao Yan and Senior Sacred Flame entered the large teleportation formation, they were immediately swallowed by the brilliant light. Moments later, as the light faded, they had been transported to the Great Thousand Worlds. Following the chaos caused by martial ancestor Lin Dong in the Ice Spirit clan, another event destined to be famous in the Great Thousand Worlds began here. This was in the southern part of the Great Thousand Worlds, where a vast, boundless ocean stretched across thousands of large continents. The arrangement of these continents formed a massive fire flame spanning over 10 billion miles. This region was known as the Fire Spirit Domain in the Great Thousand Worlds. As the name suggests, the Fire Spirit Domain was the territory governed by the Fire Spirit clan. Boom! A brilliant light exploded in the deep space above the sea near the Fire Spirit Domain. Then, as the space twisted, a massive teleportation spiritual formation appeared, and the figures of Xiao Yan and Senior Sacred Flame emerged from it. Is this the Fire Spirit Domain? Xiao Yan, who had been transported here by the teleportation array, looked around at the vast sky and land. At this moment, he was suspended hundreds of thousands of miles in the air. From his vantage point, he could clearly see the many continents in the distance. Xiao Yan could also feel the fiery attribute spiritual energy in the air here, far more concentrated than anywhere else in the Great Thousand Worlds. To reach the Fire Spirit Clan, we must cross dozens of continents before we arrive at the Fire Spirit Continent, said the primordial sacred flame beside him. Xiao Yan nodded, but just then, as though sensing something, he furrowed his brow. Strange. What's wrong? Seeing the confusion on Xiao Yan's face, the primordial sacred flame asked. It feels off. Senior sacred flame, you should also sense this. On the many continents within the Fire Spirit domain, there seems to be very few of the Fire Spirit Clan's unique aura. Instead, there are more mixed and varied auras, with attributes all over the place, and they are scattered very unevenly. Xiao Yan expressed his confusion. So this is what puzzles you? Upon hearing Xiao Yan's words, the primordial sacred flame smiled. The Fire Spirit domain encompasses nearly 5,000 continents. Whether in the past or the present, all these continents have been controlled by the Fire Spirit Clan. However, due to the decline of the Fire Spirit Clan's foundation in recent millennia, and as the Fire Spirit Clan is one of the most powerful clans in the Great Thousand Worlds, in order to maintain its operations and slow its decline, the Fire Spirit Ancestor had to resort to an unavoidable solution. That solution was to lease out all the continents in the Fire Spirit domain, except for the Fire Spirit continent itself, to other factions in the Great Thousand Worlds, with extremely simple terms. The leasing conditions vary depending on the size of the continent. For a continent of a few 100,000 miles, the rent is between 500,000 to 1 million supreme spiritual liquids every 3 years. For continents several million miles in size, the rent is between 5 million to 20 million supreme spiritual liquids every 3 years, the primordial sacred flame continued. With this arrangement in place, if the leased continent's tenants fight or even annex each other, the Fire Spirit Clan won't intervene. However, whoever becomes the ultimate ruler, or one of the rulers, of the continent must pay a portion of the supreme spiritual liquids. As a result, today, 4/5 of the continents in the Fire Spirit domain have already been leased out. This brings the Fire Spirit Clan an additional 10 billion supreme spiritual liquids every year. Of course, such a large clan as the Fire Spirit Clan must have other sources of income as well. After this plan was implemented, the Fire Spirit Clan retreated to the central Fire Spirit continent. And since the Fire Spirit continent is one of the top 10 supercontinents in the Great Thousand Worlds, with such an enormous area, it is more than enough for the Fire Spirit Clan's survival and growth. I see. After hearing the primordial sacred flame's explanation, Xiao Yan finally understood. It seemed those mixed auras were from the various sects and powerful factions who had leased continents from the Fire Spirit Clan. However, Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel a bit surprised. After leasing out thousands of continents, the Fire Spirit Clan only gained 10 billion supreme spiritual liquids per year. Of course, to Xiao Yan now, 10 billion supreme spiritual liquids was still a substantial sum, but he recalled that just a year ago, in the Do domain, an elder from the primordial divine clan's Qing Yin divine court casually took out 2 billion supreme spiritual liquids. It seemed the foundation of the primordial divine clan was far more terrifying than that of the Fire Spirit Clan. Let's head straight for the Fire Spirit continent then. Tuasha Ancient Emperor and the Fire Spirit Ancestor should be there, Xiao Yan said, gazing at the many distant continents. At the very edge of the horizon, he faintly saw a vast continent that was so enormous it defied description. The surrounding thousands of continents appeared like stars scattered around the bright moon in comparison to it. However, when Xiao Yan caught sight of the Fire Spirit continent's edge, a faint light radiating from the continent's perimeter caused him to furrow his brow. This light was not a result of spiritual energy. It resembled a vast, indescribable mirror reflecting the sunlight from the sky to the distant reaches. Since the Fire Spirit Clan's gates are right ahead, let me lend you my strength now. The primordial sacred flame chuckled as Xiao Yan was puzzled by the strange reflection. With that, his body twisted, and black and white light burst from within him. The primordial sacred flame's form immediately shifted into a wisp of flame resembling the Tai Chi yin-yang fish. Once the primordial sacred flame revealed his true form, Xiao Yan regained his focus. With a flick of his sleeve, he absorbed the primordial sacred flame into his body. Then, taking a single step, Xiao Yan vanished in an instant, appearing tens of thousands of miles away. Xiao Yan's speed was incredibly terrifying, a distance that would take even an ordinary Supreme Realm expert several years to cross. He had covered in less than 10 minutes. With his current strength, no one along the way, even in a journey spanning hundreds of millions of miles, noticed his passage. After crossing several continents in less than 10 minutes, the edge of the Fire Spirit continent finally appeared before Xiao Yan. As he saw the boundary of the Fire Spirit continent, his expression froze. Now, he finally understood what that strange reflection earlier had been. Before him stood a cliff towering 1,000,000 zhang high. To either side, the cliff seemed endless, stretching over millions of miles. Xiao Yan had only now seen the reflection because the cliff's cross-section was impossibly smooth, as though cut by some terrifying force in an instant. The once coarse, rough sand had been melted by a high-temperature power into liquid form. However, once this molten sand solidified, it became part of the smooth cliff surface. What kind of terrifying force could have caused such a scene? Xiao Yan's only guess was that during the ancient world-shattering war, the Fire Spirit clan's experts had fought against the extraterritorial clans here. The extraterritorial experts were masters of cutting techniques, while the Fire Spirit clan were experts in fire flames. Their battle had cleaved a part of the Fire Spirit continent, and as for that vanished part, it was probably now buried beneath the sea below. As Xiao Yan stared at the astonishingly smooth cliff face before him, his brow suddenly furrowed. A terrifying aura suddenly entered his perception range, and Xiao Yan immediately turned his gaze downward to the endless ocean below. This power was coming from the depths of the sea. Boom! When Xiao Yan looked down at the sea, a massive shadow rose from the depths as expected. Then, as a colossal water column shot up tens of thousands of zhang into the sky, a massive figure burst out of the sea and rushed directly toward Xiao Yan. It was a giant black dragon, tens of thousands of zhang long. What caught Xiao Yan's attention was that, despite living in the deep sea, the dragon's entire body was covered in black scales shaped like fire flames. Black Flame Sea Dragon King. After a moment of surprise, Xiao Yan immediately recognized the creature. This giant dragon, covered in black fire scales, was the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, ranked 17th on the 100,000,000 Flames ranking. The Black Flame Sea Dragon King was an extremely rare divine beast, and it could live anywhere in the Great Thousand Worlds. Its most fearsome characteristic was the black fire that could burn for 1,000 years in the deep sea. Ranked 13th on the 100,000,000 Flames ranking, the Divine Mountain Mystic Flame. As the Black Flame Sea Dragon King charged toward Xiao Yan, after emerging from the sea, black flames began to sweep across its scales. That was the Divine Mountain Mystic Flame, which carried not only terrifyingly high temperatures but also another horrifying power. The immense pressure of a towering mountain. Boom! The Divine Mountain Mystic Flame swept out from the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, forming a massive 100,000 zhang prison that directly trapped Xiao Yan inside. Xiao Yan, within the Black Flame prison, felt as though a heavy mountain was pressing down on him. At the same time, the energy circulation within the Black Flame prison slowed to a crawl. After trapping Xiao Yan with the Divine Mountain Mystic Flame, the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, which had leapt out of the sea, shifted its form and shrank into a humanoid figure, a man wearing a black fire robe. Heh, who are you? Do you not know that without an invitation from the Fire Spirit clan, no one is allowed to enter the Fire Spirit continent's territory, even within tens of millions of miles? The man in the black fire robe smiled faintly as he looked at the Black Flame prison trapping Xiao Yan. However, his smile froze in the next moment, because Xiao Yan, seemingly ignoring his words, casually waved his hand. A terrifying and indescribable force erupted, crushing the entire Black Flame prison into countless fiery fragments. Xiao Yan then waved his hand again, and the scattered Black Flame fragments gathered back together, eventually condensing into a shape resembling a mountain, a black fire flame. This was the form of the divine mountain mystic flame. How is this possible? The black fire-robed man's face showed an expression of disbelief. Just as the man in the black fire robe was filled with shock, Xiao Yan also turned his gaze toward him from the opposite side. At the same time, a faint laugh spread through the air. I am Xiao Yan, the lord of the Do domain. I have come to visit the Fire Spirit clan at their invitation. When Xiao Yan's voice reached the ears of the man in the black fire robe, the shock on his face intensified. You are the champion of the 10,000 Pills Gathering. The Flame Emperor Xiao Yan? You are the Flame Emperor Xiao Yan? Upon hearing Xiao Yan announce his identity, the Black Flame Sea Dragon King was also taken aback. No wonder the latter was able to easily dismantle his black flame prison and directly control the divine mountain mystic flame. Xiao Yan was the champion of the 10,000 Pills Gathering and a legitimate heavenly supreme, the clan leader of the Fire Spirit clan. About 5 days ago, the Black Flame Sea Dragon King had received a message from the Fire Spirit clan, personally delivered by clan leader Fan Xing. According to clan leader Fan Xing's instructions, the Black Flame Sea Dragon King had to wait here for a powerful individual from the Do domain. However, Fan Xing did not disclose who would come, how many would come, or when they would arrive. In truth, Fan Xing himself didn't know these details either. So, the Black Flame Sea Dragon King had to wait here, but he never imagined that someone from the Do domain would arrive so soon, just 5 days later, and that the person would be none other than Xiao Yan, the lord of the Do domain. This was why the Black Flame Sea Dragon King had mistakenly assumed that Xiao Yan was a powerful expert from the Great Thousand Worlds simply passing through the Fire Spirit domain. I am the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, and I have been waiting here for the Flame Emperor on the clan leader's orders since 5 days ago. After confirming Xiao Yan's identity, the Black Flame Sea Dragon King immediately bowed respectfully. As he spoke, he secretly glanced at the divine mountain mystic flame in Xiao Yan's hand. That flame was his life's essence, and now it was in Xiao Yan's possession. If he lost the divine mountain mystic flame, the Black Flame Sea Dragon King's strength would likely be reduced by more than half. The Black Flame Sea Dragon King was worried because he had heard that Xiao Yan could control the 10,000 flames, with more than 30 kinds of advanced heavenly flames. A person capable of merging such a large number of high-level heavenly flames must have a great interest in the myriad fires of heaven and earth. The Divine Mountain Mystic Flame was ranked 13th on the 100 million flames ranking, and if Xiao Yan chose not to return it, things could end badly for him. My apologies. I was rude earlier, the Black Flame Sea Dragon King said again, speaking with great respect. However, as the Black Flame Sea Dragon King was filled with concern, Xiao Yan immediately sensed his thoughts. Indeed, Xiao Yan was very interested in the Divine Mountain Mystic Flame, but he only smiled faintly. With a flick of his finger, the Divine Mountain Mystic Flame was swiftly returned to the Black Flame Sea Dragon King. Black Flame Sea Dragon King, take me to the Fire Spirit clan. I wish to visit and thank an old senior, Xiao Yan said after returning the Divine Mountain Mystic Flame. The Black Flame Sea Dragon King, seeing that the mystic flame had been returned, quickly absorbed it back into his body. However, as he did so, he noticed something strange. The Divine Mountain Mystic Flame seemed slightly weaker than before, but he didn't think much of it and immediately led Xiao Yan into the Fire Spirit continent. Upon entering the Fire Spirit continent, Xiao Yan, guided by the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, encountered several Fire Spirit clan guards along the way. It was clear that the leaders of these squads knew the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, and upon seeing Xiao Yan following him, they immediately understood. Word of Xiao Yan's arrival had spread throughout the Fire Spirit clan, and everyone was eagerly anticipating the visit from the Do domain. Of course, no one yet realized that the person following the Black Flame Sea Dragon King was none other than Xiao Yan, the Flame Emperor and Lord of the Do domain. The Fire Spirit continent was Xiao Yan's second supercontinent in the Great Thousand Worlds, and its vastness left him in awe. After traveling for a while with the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, they reached the central region of the continent. Here, countless magnificent palaces towered, showcasing the Fire Spirit clan's grandiose presence. According to the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, The Fire Spirit continent was divided into 81 regions, each vast enough to span tens of millions of miles. In ancient times, each region was guarded by a powerful Earth Supreme, but due to the decline of the Fire Spirit clan, now a single Earth Supreme Elder was responsible for managing 2 or even 3 regions. The place for receiving honored guests of the Fire Spirit clan was located at the center of the Fire Spirit continent, where the Fire Spirit Heavenly Hall stood. The hall had not been opened for several decades, as the Fire Spirit clan's visitors had become increasingly rare in recent times. Senior Tuasha Ancient Emperor. In which region is he located? Xiao Yan asked the Black Flame Sea Dragon King. Are you the Fire Sovereign? The Black Flame Sea Dragon King asked. The Fire Sovereign has been residing in the pasture in the northern part of the Fire Spirit continent since being taken in by the ancestor thousands of years ago. Hearing this, Xiao Yan's mind flashed with a memory from 7 or 8 years ago. At that time, the great elder of the ancient heaven-devouring Python clan had handed him a jade slip. Within the jade slip, Xiao Yan had seen an extraordinary area filled with thousands of different flames. In that place, it seemed like any kind of flame could be found in its original form. Now, it seemed that this place must be the Fire Spirit pasture, the domain of the Black Flame Sea Dragon King. At that moment, Xiao Yan saw the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, who had been moving forward, suddenly halt his pace. Upon seeing this, Xiao Yan also paused in midair. Maintain this direction. If you continue forward for several million miles, you will reach the Fire Spirit Heavenly Hall. You can go ahead first. I will go and notify the clan leader and the others. The Black Flame Sea Dragon King said, then took out a token inscribed with flame runes and handed it to Xiao Yan. This is the Fire Spirit Heavenly Token. There are guards at the Fire Spirit Heavenly Hall. Give this token to them, and they will recognize you. After that, the Black Flame Sea Dragon King moved in another direction, and Xiao Yan, after briefly examining the Fire Spirit Heavenly Token, moved again, heading toward the distant horizon. Earlier, he had to slow his speed by several times because of the Black Flame Sea Dragon King, but now he could travel much faster. Pasture? Xiao Yan mumbled quietly, recalling the area the Black Flame Sea Dragon King had mentioned. His gaze shifted toward the northern part of the continent. Although it was several 100 million miles away, Xiao Yan could still sense powerful flames from that direction. He couldn't help but want to visit that so-called pasture because it housed more than 1,000 types of fierce flames. To Xiao Yan, it was like a paradise, and the ancient Emperor Tuasha was there. However, since Xiao Yan was visiting the Fire Spirit clan as a guest of honor, he decided not to act impolitely by wandering around their continent. He would go directly to the Fire Spirit Heavenly Hall. Just when Xiao Yan was only a few 100,000 miles away from the Fire Spirit Heavenly Hall, a familiar aura suddenly entered his perception, causing Xiao Yan to pause in midair, surprised. This is? Sensing the familiar aura, Xiao Yan turned his gaze toward the right horizon. He could feel the presence of many auras gathered several million miles away from the Fire Spirit Heavenly Hall, and among them, there was a familiar presence. What was that person doing in the Fire Spirit clan? After sensing the familiar aura, Xiao Yan glanced at the Fire Spirit Heavenly Hall, and with his heavenly soul's piercing perception, he saw an old man in gray robes meditating in front of the hall's entrance. He must be the gatekeeper of the Fire Spirit Heavenly Hall, as the Black Flame Sea Dragon King had said. However, Xiao Yan, only a short distance away from the Fire Spirit Heavenly Hall, did not continue in the direction the Black Flame Sea Dragon King had pointed out. Instead, he turned and headed toward the place where the auras had gathered several million miles away. Xiao Yan decided to go and express his gratitude, as this person had once helped him when he first arrived in the Great Thousand Worlds. The 100 Combat Arena, a term that could be heard everywhere in the Fire Spirit clan, was an arena for combat and sparring among the clan's strong young members. In the 81 regions of the Fire Spirit continent, each region had at least 100 combat arena. At this moment, in one of the regions of the Fire Spirit clan, a huge 100 combat arena stood in the middle of a mountain range, bustling with activity. A man, claiming to be from Northern Heaven, was publicly declaring that he wanted to spar with the young elites of the Fire Spirit clan. Northern Heaven referred to the renowned academy in the Great Thousand Worlds, the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Although Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy was one of the 5 great academies in the Great Thousand Worlds, it was not regarded highly by the young elite of ancient clans like the Fire Spirit clan. After all, the highest-ranked students in Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy could only reach the 4th or 5th grade supreme level, and there were only 5 or 6 supreme-level experts in the entire academy. In comparison, the Fire Spirit clan, even though it had declined somewhat, still had young elites capable of reaching the Earth's supreme level. A single young member of the Fire Spirit clan could easily fend off an entire academy like Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. So, when the self-proclaimed Northern Heaven student claimed to want to spar with the young elites of the Fire Spirit clan, the clan immediately opened its gates to welcome him. This was the demeanor of a great clan, but in reality, it was a mockery. The Fire Spirit clan immediately sent out some so-called outstanding young members to spar with the Northern Heaven student, fulfilling his request. But these outstanding, the younger generation of the Fire Spirit clan was confident. They believed that with just a few triple divine souls, they could defeat the Northern Heavens Academy student. They hadn't even bothered to assess his true strength. However, the actual result was unexpected. The 6 triple divine souls who attacked together were immediately suppressed by the Northern Heavens Academy student's aura, unable to move. The second time, the Fire Spirit clan sent out a 5th grade supreme, but the Northern Heavens Academy student, hands behind his back, exhaled and sent that 5th grade supreme flying off the 100 battle platform. The third time, the Fire Spirit clan sent a 9th grade supreme, one of the top 8 in their younger generation. But the result was still the same. Defeat in a single strike. The younger generation of the Fire Spirit clan was astonished. In the end, they had no choice but to call out the 3 kings, 3 young experts who had truly reached the Earth's supreme level. The leader of the 3 kings, Yin had even reached the peak of the perfected Earth Supreme. He was considered the greatest candidate to become the next clan leader of the Fire Spirit clan. The 4th match was between the 3rd king and the Northern Heavens Academy student. The two fought for 10 rounds on the 100 battle platform before the 3rd king was defeated. Yin, who had been watching from the side, used this battle to gauge the true strength of the Northern Heavens Academy student. To his shock, the latter was on the same level as himself, an Upper Earth supreme peak. No wonder no one could defeat him. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a fierce battle had been raging for several minutes on the 100 battle platform. The one now facing the Northern Heavens Academy student was none other than Yin, the leader of the 3 kings. After the 3rd king was defeated, the 2nd king had intended to step up, but Yin stopped him and directly ascended the platform to fight the Northern Heavens Academy student. Rumble. Although the 100 battle platform was vast and made of special materials strong enough to withstand destruction from experts below the 8th grade supreme level, when 2 Upper Earth supreme peaks clashed furiously on the platform, the shockwaves from their battle were so intense that the entire platform seemed on the verge of collapse. Boom! A dull, resounding crash echoed across the platform. The 2 figures, locked in a fierce battle, were knocked apart by each other's power. Outside the platform, atop surrounding mountains, a crowd of young men and women had gathered. They were all from the younger generation of the Fire Spirit clan, watching anxiously as the battle unfolded. Clearly, none of them had expected this Northern Heavens Academy student, who had been ridiculed at first, to be so strong. He really came from the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy? In addition to the young generation, there were a few elders of the Fire Spirit clan also observing. Normally, they wouldn't pay attention to such youthful conflicts, no matter how heated. But this time was different. The student from the Northern Heavens had challenged the strongest of their young generation, and after over 100 rounds, there was still no sign of him being defeated. You're hiding more strength, aren't you? On the 100 battle platform, the sturdy Northern Heavens Academy student grinned at Yin, his expression full of battle intent. It's hard to believe someone like you came out of the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy. Yin replied with a smile. I've already had someone investigate. What you're trying to do now is challenge the top peers from the 5 great spirit clans, right? Mu Chan from the Wood Spirit Clan and Lei Qingtian from the Thunder Spirit Clan have both fallen to you. Upon hearing Yin Lu's words, the surrounding young members of the Fire Spirit Clan were once again shocked. Mu Chan was the leader of the younger generation of the Wood Spirit Clan, while Lei Qingtian was the top among the younger generation of the Thunder Spirit Clan. Both had reached the Earth Supreme level 2 years ago, with Lei Qingtian becoming even stronger after entering the Earth Supreme 5 or 6 years ago. Yet, both had been defeated by this Northern Heavens Academy student. This was nothing short of a provocation. A student from the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy challenging the 5 great ancient spirit clans. According to the information, the Fire Spirit Clan was the 3rd target of this Northern Heavens student. If the Fire Spirit Clan lost, the Ice Spirit Clan and the Pill God Clan would be next. While everyone was still in shock, on the 100 battle stage, the figure of the Northern Heaven Academy student once again crossed through space and shot into the air. As the hand seal in his hand began to change, layers of thunderclouds appeared in the sky. Within the thunderclouds, a massive black-patterned finger, over several thousand zhang in length, descended directly. This finger was not a natural manifestation of heaven and earth, but rather a supreme divine technique. When a destructive force radiated from the black-patterned giant finger, the 3rd and 2nd kings below finally realized that the Northern Heaven Academy student had been hiding his true strength all along. Show me your real power. The enormous black-patterned finger, carrying the force of destruction, extended halfway out of the thick clouds. No one doubted that the power contained in this single strike would severely injure even an Upper Earth supreme powerhouse. Yin Lu also sensed the destructive power within the black-patterned giant finger. His gaze tightened, and with a flick of his sleeve, a blue-white flame surged out from his body. The appearance of the blue-white flame caused the temperature within 100,000 miles to rise sharply. Seeing this blue-white flame, the crowd quickly stepped back a considerable distance. Even the aftershocks from the upcoming clash would be unbearable for those at the supreme stage. However, just as Yin Lu unleashed the blue-white flame, a light shadow suddenly swept from the distant horizon and passed by the young members of the Fire Spirit Clan who were retreating. Since the person made no effort to conceal their aura, their appearance quickly drew the attention of many young members of the Fire Spirit Clan. Under the gaze of countless eyes, the figure that had broken through the air slowly landed on a mountain peak not far from the 100 battle stage. The person raised their head, and their face revealed none other than Xiao Yan. That's the 15th on the 100 million flames ranking, the 9009 Tribulations flame? As Xiao Yan broke through the air, his gaze immediately fixed on Yin Lu on the 100 battle stage. His eyes locked onto the blue-white flame in the latter's hand. The 9009 Tribulations flame, born from the brightest star in the sky. The Sirius absorbed the power of star fire over nearly 1,000,000 years. It grew through 9 stages, each lasting 100,000 years. At its peak, the 9009 Tribulations flame was said to be nearly impossible to tame, even by Upper Earth supreme powerhouses. Watching the 9009 Tribulations flame in Yin Lu's hand, Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration. The Fire Spirit Clan truly deserved to be the top Fire Flame Clan in the Great Thousand Worlds. Even a young member was able to control a super heavenly flame ranked in the top 15. However, Xiao Yan didn't come here because of Yin Lu and the 9009 Tribulations flame. His reason for arriving was to meet another familiar face. At this moment, the Northern Heaven Academy student, seeing the 9009 Tribulations flame in Yin Lu's hand, realized that the latter was ready to use his true strength. With a grin, Qin Zhantian prepared to unleash the black-patterned giant finger from the heavens. But just then, a faint laugh rang out from behind.